After 8 years, breaking ethics laws has become as synonymous with these Liberals as higher taxes. And now, for a record 5th time, a Liberal minister has been caught breaking ethics laws at a time when Canadians are struggling to afford to heat their homes and put food on the table for their families. The Trade Minister was finding the time and taxpayer money to line the pockets of her insider friend. Another day, another lawless Liberal under this lawless Prime Minister. So will the minister do the right thing and cut a check to make restitution for her corruption?
The Honourable Minister for Small Business.
Mr. Speaker, the Commissioner has reviewed this issue and has reached his consensus or his conclusion. And to this House, I apologized. I regret that I made a mistake. I should have recused myself. At the time, it was quite urgent that we communicated with Canadians, particularly small businesses, about those urgent supports that were needed. But I do regret that I did not recuse myself, and for that I apologize to this House. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, it's unfortunate but not surprising that the minister won't make it right after serving under this Prime Minister who has twice himself been found guilty of breaking Canada's ethics laws. These Liberals exist solely for the purpose to hold on to power. They divide Canadians, pit neighbour against neighbour, and line the pockets of Liberal insiders while they're at it. So, will the Prime Minister today ask for this minister's resignation?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
No.
Time and time again, we see Liberal cabinet ministers breaking ethics laws to help their friends and Liberal insiders. The Liberals will funnel money and lucrative contracts to them. They'll take illegal vacations. They'll even interfere in the criminal prosecution to help out their friends. And after 8 years under this Prime Minister, well, Canadians have never had it so bad. Liberal insiders, friends, and high-priced consultants have never had it so good. So when will they stop the corruption and start putting the needs of Canadians first?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, saying that Canadians have never had it worse is an absolutely ludicrous statement. There have been all kinds of instances in history where Canadians have faced hard times and dealt with difficult situations, whether or not it was in great wars or in difficult economic storms that took the world. Canadians rose to those occasions and met them with strength and determination to build a stronger future thereafter. And the notion, as Canadians are facing anxiety as they're looking at global tumult, that they should think that they are the worst position they've ever been is just simply irresponsible, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, throughout history and up until this point, governments were there for their people when they were facing hard times, but not these Liberals. They're there for insiders. The Prime Minister who helped his buddies get off criminal charges. The Prime Minister who took an illegal vacation. The Intergovernmental Affairs Minister who gave lucrative contracts to family members. And the Prime Minister's hand-picked Finance Minister who tried to give $500 million to we, and the Trade Minister who, of course, just gave tens of thousands of dollars to her bestie. Canadians are lined up at food banks. Liberal insiders are lined up to get rich. What's it going to take for one of these corrupt ministers to resign?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask that we all watch the language that we use, and I'd be interested to see if the member opposite would use a term like that outside of the chamber. This chamber should be met with the same decorum inside as out. And, Mr. Speaker, the party opposite had the opportunity for 10 years to care about the issues that they're now talking about. And I would ask them, if they said they were there, where were they for that 1.5 million Canadians who now have jobs that didn't under their government? Where were they for over 1 million individuals who were in poverty and who were suffering when they were in government and never talked about poverty, Mr. Speaker? It's a little bit rich, and I think they should reflect on their rhetoric.
Yes.
After 8 years of this Prime Minister, Canadians have never had it so bad, but Liberal insiders and high-priced consultants and friends of this Prime Minister have never had it so good. Just look at the Minister for International Trade. While Canadians were lined up at food banks, she had her BFF lined up to receive lucrative contracts that turned out to be illegal. That's a record 5th ethics violation for this Prime Minister and members of his cabinet. Canadians want accountability. When will this Prime Minister ask for that minister's resignation?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we support and respect the Commissioner and the work his office does. The minister in question has taken responsibility and apologized.
The honourable member for Leeds Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Well, now it's time to respect taxpayers and Canadians and have some ministerial accountability across the aisle, and that means resignations of ministers who break Canadian law. But it's not a surprise from this Prime Minister, because he's twice been found to have broken ethics laws in this country to help out his buddies and Liberal insiders. After 8 years of this Prime Minister, you bet if you're a Liberal insider, things are looking pretty great, but not so for the rest of Canadians. So when will this Prime Minister and these Liberals finally put Canadians first and put the corruption and law-breaking aside?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while Conservatives engage in attacks, we're engaging in supporting Canadians directly with things that Conservatives have opposed. Things like delivering rental supports to the lowest income renters, which Conservatives voted against. We stepped up with help so that all families can send their kids to the dentist. Unfortunately, Conservatives stood against that too. No wonder they'd talk about anything else other than their abandonment of the middle class. We're going to continue to be there to support Canadians throughout.
The honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Another bad answer from a random Liberal. So after 8 years of this Prime Minister, Canadians are struggling like they've never had before, but if you're a Liberal lobbyist or a high-priced consultant, it's never been better. For the 5th time, these Liberals have been found guilty of breaking our ethics laws twice by this Prime Minister. This time, the Trade Minister was caught shoveling money to her good friend and CBC pundit, Amanda Alvaro, who is also on the Trade Minister's campaign team. Will the Prime Minister fire this Trade Minister and make her pay back the $17,000 he gave to her BFF?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, the Minister has taken full responsibility and apologized.